Mick Schumacher is fighting to stay in Formula 1, but even if he does, it looks like his dream of one day racing for Ferrari is over. Schumacher's yet to convince Haas he should be kept on for 2023, and in addition to potentially being out of a drive, there is increasing speculation his Ferrari ties will be severed as well. The son of Ferrari legend and 7-time world champion Michael Schumacher is unlikely to follow in his father's footsteps, and while that may not be a surprise to many of you, it is part of a bigger picture that means Mick's F1 career could be hanging in the balance. As Schumacher approaches the end of his second season, he has failed to make an emphatic case to be retained by Haas, nor has he staked his claim as a future Ferrari driver. He's shown flashes of piecing everything together and banked a couple of headline results with impressive points finishes, but has only done that on a couple of occasions. The jury is still out on whether Schumacher has the outright speed to be a top F1 driver, and there's no emphatic argument that he can be depended upon to consistently produce the required performance. Consistency is so important in F1 because the level is so high. It's not good enough to just have the occasional good day where you can qualify and race inside the top 10. Schumacher's level has not been high enough in this regard, even though there have been signs of improvement. He had a strong run of races mid-season across the Canadian, British and Austrian Grand Prix, where the car was a top 10 contender and Schumacher lived up to that. Schumacher was also looking solid at the Dutch Grand Prix, the only time in the last couple of months the Haas has looked like a points contender. That was a decent reminder of what Mick has to offer. But it's too late in the day for glimpses of potential, especially looking beyond Schumacher's prospects at Haas, because he has ambitions greater than that, ambitions that include driving for Ferrari. But Schumacher needed to excel against Kevin Magnussen this season to convince Ferrari he was a serious long-term option. In many ways, Magnussen's the ideal benchmark for that kind of evaluation. He's a good professional driver, but short of the required top-tier standard. A future Ferrari prospect would slot in just above that level. It's realistic to imagine Charles Leclerc or George Russell jumping into Haas and outperforming Magnussen, something Schumacher has not done enough. It's a relief that Schumacher has at least scored a couple of good results while the car was still competitive, as there was a serious risk that he would peak once the team's performance nosedived. Had that happened, Schumacher could realistically have gone through the year pointless, which would not have been a fair reflection of his performances. But now the 2022 season feels about right for Schumacher, a combination of good peaks, costly crashes and a lingering question mark over what his ultimate ability is. There seems a reasonable chance that this will end in Haas deciding he isn't good enough, and if that's the case, why would Ferrari think he is? A lack of superstar qualities might not have completely torpedoed Schumacher's chances at Ferrari though, and as we get into that, if you're new here or you've not yet subscribed to the channel, please consider hitting that button because we really do appreciate your support and we'd love to have you along in the future. Schumacher would just have needed some friendly circumstances to align, either a favour from Ferrari bowing to the emotional appeal of running a Schumacher again, or more realistically, a decision by the team that it only needed to find a number 2 for Leclerc. Few drivers have ever raced under the same expectation and scrutiny as Schumacher thanks to his illustrious father, but there's never been any indication that nepotism would play in Mick's favour at Maranello. When he was finally signed by Ferrari to its junior program in 2019, Ferrari unsurprisingly put the emphasis on his talent and human and professional qualities, and the evidence supports the idea that Ferrari has only ever judged Mick on his own merits. By the time he became a Ferrari junior, Schumacher was preparing for his 5th season in single-seaters and his first in Formula 2. So Ferrari came into the picture really late. If it just wanted to have Schumacher on its books for sentimental reasons, he'd have been part of the Ferrari Driver Academy a lot sooner. Instead, the chance came once the team was finally convinced, which suggests Schumacher had not made a particularly compelling case before then. He was clearly good enough to be taken seriously as a protege by 2019 though, and certainly deserved a chance in F1 a couple of years later because by then he was European F3 and Formula 2 champion. But any chance Schumacher had of being a long-term Ferrari option came with 2 huge caveats. He'd need to improve quite a lot and Ferrari would have to need him. When Schumacher joined the FDA, Kimi Räikkönen had already vacated the team and was replaced by Charles Leclerc. By the end of 2019, when Schumacher had an underwhelming rookie F2 season, Leclerc had earned a new long-term contract and was clearly the future of Ferrari as its lead driver. Schumacher was never likely to be viewed the same way, but if he progressed, then with Leclerc as the team leader, it was not too far-fetched to think that Schumacher could be a long-term number 2 option. And then Carlos Sainz came along. The Leclerc-Sainz combination paid off instantly in 2021, racking up points almost in unison through the season, and it looks increasingly strong again in 2022. Earlier this year, despite Sainz struggling to adapt to the new car, he signed a new deal keeping him with the team until the end of 2024, bringing him in line with Leclerc. The Leclerc-Sainz combination is well balanced in terms of team dynamics, and it seems a no-brainer that Ferrari will bet on it longer term. So there's no room at the inn for Schumacher. Even if he was emphatically good enough, Ferrari has better options. If Schumacher and Ferrari part company at the end of the season, it will presumably come down to 2 reasons. It will either be because there's a perception Schumacher needs to be a free agent rather than a Ferrari driver to do a deal with another team to stay in F1. Or it will be that Ferrari doesn't see the point of retaining Schumacher beyond his FDA deal because he's not a protege anymore and there's no need to keep him under contract. But if Schumacher fails to find an F1 seat for 2023 elsewhere, a scenario that looks worryingly realistic for him, it would not be in his interest to leave the Ferrari camp by choice. Without an F1 drive, Schumacher's best option would surely be to strike a deal to be Ferrari's reserve driver. He currently shares that role with Antonio Giovinazzi, who is more experienced than Schumacher and is also a highly coveted simulator driver at Ferrari. Put simply, Schumacher should aim to stay in the Ferrari family if there's no serious future outside it. Obviously there's a massive unknown factor in there, in that we have no idea whether Ferrari would want that. But it could at least be open to it, especially as Ferrari is preparing for its return to the top class of the Le Mans 24 Hours with a new sports car program. Ferrari's new Le Mans hypercar completed a 3-day test at Portimao last week ahead of its debut at Sebring next year in the World Endurance Championship. Plenty of existing Ferrari GT drivers took part in that test: Alessandro Pierguidi, James Calado, Antonio Fuoco, Miguel Molina and Davide Rigon. They will all be in the pool of options Ferrari wants for the full program, but what's stopping Schumacher trying to join them? His best attributes are that he's a good team player, a hard worker and an intelligent driver, so he could be very well suited to endurance racing. And the prospect of a Schumacher helping Ferrari win at Le Mans is a very appealing one. Plenty of drivers not considered quite good enough for F1 have found joy and success outside it, they just need to embrace that reality. Schumacher will almost certainly have his sights set on F1 given he's still only 23, but a year on the sidelines is looking increasingly plausible. An F1 reserve driver role dovetailed with a Ferrari WEC and Le Mans program could be a brilliant alternative if he's open to it.